During the Wednesday meeting of the Barrie City Council, a controversial motion was unanimously approved. It was seconded by Ward 9 Councillor Sergio Morales and put forth by Ward 10 Councillor Brian Hamilton. Hamilton introduced the motion as a solution for chronic homelessness, but the 500-word proposal dedicated only 26 words to housing, while housing responsibility was largely shifted to county and provincial levels. Hamilton's discussion focused more on the effects of the homelessness on the city and its residents rather than the homeless themselves. The motion gave Chief Administrative Officer Michael Prowse surprising powers to penalize those helping homeless individuals in public areas. This signifies a potential harmful shift in city policy. The motion was unexpectedly presented, leaving both citizens and media uninformed until its sudden introduction. While Councillor Nixon reassured that the motion's introduction didn't guarantee its implementation, this secrecy raises questions about commitment to a democratic process. The motion includes a Family Reunification Fund, a measure supported by Councillor Nigusi, Councillor Harvey, and Mayor Nuttall. However, this might risk returning individuals to abusive homes. Lastly, the motion vaguely supports food banks and warming centers without offering concrete solutions. In summary, this motion appears to aim at making life harder for the homeless, removing them from Barrie and offloading housing responsibilities. This meeting sparks question about Barrie's approach to homelessness, highlighting the need for conversation around democratic transparency, compassionate policies, and the city's responsibilities to all its residents. You can use the timestamps in the video description to navigate directly to the sections of the video you are interested in.
We will begin today with the confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the City Council meeting dated May the 3rd, 2023 have been circulated. Are there any corrections from members of Council? Seeing none, these minutes are adopted as printed and circulated. We will move on to awards and recognition. Recognition of the I Love Barrie winners, and the presentation is going to be here this evening. So the city's 7th annual I Love Barrie contest took place earlier this year, welcoming entries from local students to share why they love Barrie. We'd like to congratulate this year's winners and celebrate their talent, passion, and love for our city. So I'm pleased to share this year's I Love Barrie winners. Our artwork winner is Layla Maxwell, who's in grade 4 at Sister Catherine Donnelly Catholic School. And our class winner is Mrs. McDonald's grade 2-3 class from St. Bernadette Catholic School. The winners' names have been shared in the city's This Week in Barrie feature in the Barrie Advance, and also received an I Love Barrie prize pack. Mrs. McDonald and her class were not able to be here tonight, but they did receive a pizza lunch party as part of the prize. Our artwork winner, Layla Maxwell, and her family are in attendance tonight, so I'd like to call upon Layla Maxwell to join me at the podium for the presentation of the award.
So Layla, on behalf of the City of Barrie, we want to recognize your talent and your work that you put in and your effort you put in. And we wanted to present you with a certificate here this evening, as well as a gift to say thank you as a 2023 I Love Barrie contest winner. So here on behalf of City Council and the City of Barrie, congratulations and thank you so much for putting in your artwork as well. Would you like to say anything? No? Would you like to do a photo? I think you're, you want to turn around here? Wonderful. Congratulations, Layla.
Members of Council, Councillor Nixon and I were at a Simcoe Youth Choir event the other night where I let everybody in the audience know what I see to be happening more and more. It's that my job is to present people far more talented than myself with awards, and it's really neat to see the talents that we have in our community. So Layla, thank you again so much for your contribution. We now will go on to the recognition of the Barrie Royals Under-10 girls basketball team on winning the gold medal at the 2023 Provincial Championship. I'd like to congratulate the Under-10 Barrie Royal girls basketball team on a fantastic season, and I'll now invite coaches Mike Dominelli, Paul Zyla, and Jocelyn Hubin to the podium to say a few words about the season and hand out the certificates.
Okay, thank you everyone. I did not honestly prepare anything, but I just want to say congratulations to these girls on an amazing season. 8 of these girls started this season without playing any basketball, okay? Just driveway basketball, and now they're here provincial champs. So proud of them. I think it was 32-2 was the record in a provincial championship, which has only been done 4 times in Royals history since 1985. So, congrats girls, congrats coaches. Sure. Yeah, you want it, me? You sure? You know. Okay.
I'm better than I do.
Yeah. Okay, first is Harper. Coming in Harper Patrick, sorry. London Hubin. Sage Barrowclaw. Sophia LaGreco. Sophia Knapp. Emerson Thomas. Josephine Zyla. Sophia Dominelli. Isabella Ashwood. Claire Gallagher. She's got multiple medals on. She's ready. Yeah. Lila Simpson. Haley Bartlett. And Coach Jocelyn Hubin. And Paul Zyla. Thank you.
Would you guys like to do a photo up here with the team?
Oh, yeah.
Here? Yeah.
Girls, come down.
We need you on our team.
Perfect. Get in front of us.
Everybody in front of the adults. Oh, the adults in the back.
You're going to face this way.
Face this way. Yeah, it's kind of be, so why don't we have,
back up a little bit.
guys, can we have 4 sitting, 4 on your knees, 4 standing? Okay, so let's see how fast we do that. 4 sitting, 4 on your knees, 4 standing.
But face.
Facing the man in the plaid.
Move up. Sage, you get up there.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So congratulations again to our Barrie Royals provincial champions, and thank you for sharing that with us this evening. It's always really neat for members of council to see the young people of our city achieve so much. So congratulations and thank you again. It is a riveting evening this evening, but I'm sure that there's better things that you folks have to do than sit here. So we'll take a 30-second break and allow you to exit if you like. Well, thank you. That concludes the awards and recognition for this evening. We have no reports from officers or deputations. We do have tax applications. So Deputy Mayor Thompson, do you have a motion regarding the tax applications this evening?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that tax application to council for cancellation, reduction, and addition dated May 17th, 2023.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Nixon that the tax applications to council for cancellation, reduction, or additions dated May 17th, 2023, that the list of applications of council for cancellation, reduction, or additions dated May 17, 2003, submitted by the treasurer in the amount of $28,027.67 be approved. Madam Clerk, have we received any objections to this list of applications for cancellation, reduction, or addition of taxes? And are there any comments or questions from members of council?
No, Mayor Nuttall, I have not received any, but I'm going to confirm with the treasurer that he has not received any either.
I have not received any.
Perfect. Any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, I'll now take the vote. Those in favor? And it's approved. The motion is carried. There are no communications, so we're going to move on to committee reports. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that Section A of General Committee Report dated May 8th, 2023, as circulated, be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Nixon that Section A of the General Committee Report dated May 8th, 2023, as circulated, be received. 23-G-106, the Confidential Education and Training Session, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Workshop. Are there any questions or comments with regards to Section A? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that Section A of the General Committee Report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Nixon that Section A of the General Committee Report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be received. 23-G-107, the report of the Affordability Committee dated April 26, 2023. 23-G-108, the report of the Community Safety Committee dated May the 3rd, 2023. Are there any comments or questions with regards to the reports to be received? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that Section B of the General Committee Report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Nixon that Section B of the General Committee Report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. 23-G-109, the investigation of an all-way stop at Innisfil and Marshall Street in Ward 8. 23-G-110, Rotary Club of Barrie, COVID-19 Heroes and Memorial Garden in Sunnydale Park in Ward 4. 23-G-111, report back on 2022 busking program pilot and recommendations for the 2023 pilot. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion on the floor? Councillor Corser.
Yes, hi, I'd like to comment on Section B, item 23-G-110 for the Rotary Club of Barrie COVID-19 Heroes and Memorial Garden in Sunnydale Park. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Rotary Club of Barrie for their generosity in bringing forth a proposal for COVID-19 Heroes and Memorial Garden as a permanent tribute to all those that have been affected by the pandemic and to recognize the tireless efforts of the local health and frontline heroes. The last few years have been a time of upheaval, sorrow, uncertainty, and hope. And if this motion passes, the COVID-19 Heroes and Memorial Garden, well, I hope that will create a place of solace, reflection, and healing for our entire community.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Are there any other questions or comments with regards to the items inside of the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that Section C of the General Committee report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Nixon, that Section C of the General Committee report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be received. This is 23-G-112, the proposed 2023 Development Charge Bylaw and Community Benefit Charges Strategy, the City of Barrie, dated May 10th, 2023. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the public meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's approved. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that Section D of the General Committee report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Nixon, that Section D of the General Committee report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. This is 23-G-113, Safety in School Zones. I'll note that there was some information sent out by Ms. Banfield today with regards to some of the safety and or lack thereof in some of the school zones, and I know that was part of the discussion last week. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the invitation to the school board to come to committee? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon, that Section E of the General Committee report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Nixon, that Section E of the General Committee report dated May 10th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. This is 23-G-114, funding request for Duckworth Street new transmission water main and row expansion, wards 1 and 2. Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. As consistent with last week, while the project in question is not directly in front of the property, is owned by my parents and I, it's about 2.5 blocks away, and just because 23-G-114 is requesting an increase in budget in the millions, out of an abundance of caution, I will abstain from this vote.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. Madam Clerk, has that been noted?
Yes, Mayor Nuttall, it has.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. That concludes our committee reports. There's no deferred business this evening. We'll move into direct motions. Councillor Harvey, I believe that you have a direct motion for this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Thompson, and this is in relation to the Horsepower Sports and Entertainment Group facility use and concessions agreement for the Sadlon Arena, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute an extension to the existing facility use and concession agreements on the same terms and conditions with Horsepower Sports and Entertainment Group, owners of the Barrie Colts, for a period of 9 months for the use of the Sadlon Arena in a form acceptable to the Director of Legal Services and the General Manager of Community and Corporate Services.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Harvey and seconded by Deputy Mayor Thompson that the Horsepower Sports and Entertainment Group facility use and concessions agreement for the Sadlon Arena, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute an extension to the existing facility use and concession agreements on the same terms and conditions with Horsepower Sports and Entertainment Group, owners of the Barrie Colts, for a period of 9 months for the use of the Sadlon Arena in a form acceptable to the Director of Legal Services and General Manager of Community and Corporate Services. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the extension? Yes, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Maybe to you, if you're as part of the extension discussion. As a season ticket holder, one thing I've noticed with concessions there is cash only. Would that be part of the discussion, that they could add a cashless option, or is that something we have to put to the motion, or just add to the discussion when you have it?
With regards to the discussion overall with the lease for the Barrie Colts Horsepower Sports Entertainment, that's not on the floor tonight. This is just an extension of what the current is. Certainly, I think our public services heard your question and can include that in any of the discussions and negotiations going forward. And I would note that I believe, and CAO Prowse, if you can confirm or correct me, that the actual lease negotiations are part of a confidential motion usually. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor Nuttall, they would, the terms and conditions under which we would renegotiate would be confidential.
Thank you. So we can certainly have that discussion if and when a different lease comes back in the next 9 months.
That's great. I promised to buy more popcorn if it was discussion. Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions or comments with regards to the motion for a 9-month extension for Barrie, for the Sadlon Arena with Horsepower Sports Entertainment? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that carries. We now have a direct motion without notice, options to address chronic homelessness in the city of Barrie. Councillor Hamilton, I believe you have that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Morales that pursuant to Section 7.1 of the Procedural Bylaw 2019-100, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning options to address chronic homelessness in the city of Barrie.
It's moved by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Councillor Morales that a motion without notice, options to address chronic homelessness in the city of Barrie, that pursuant to Section 7.1 of the Procedural Bylaw 2019-100, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning the options to address chronic homelessness in the city of Barrie. This motion requires a 2/3 majority. Excuse me. All those in favor, and that carries. Councillor Hamilton, I believe you have the next motion as well.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor Nuttall, it is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Morales. Direct motion, options to address chronic homelessness in the city of Barrie. That number 1, that the Chief Administrative Officer consider/utilize the following options to address chronic homelessness and enhance public safety in the city of Barrie. A, request funding from the province of Ontario for additional financial support for the Rapid Access Addiction Medicine Clinic to provide more beds and to increase the hours of operation or provide, and for a similar organization that provides long-term counseling and treatment. B, approve funding for the following: a Family Reunification Fund to pay for the transportation costs and help reunite individuals with families or support groups. 1B, Number 2, the operation of a shuttle service for individuals released from the Central North Correctional Center. 3, a cooling and warming center for at-risk individuals and the provision of daily meal programs that are currently being offered on public lands and in public parks over multiple years. 4, to the Salvation Army or a similar organization to support a lunch program. And 5, for food security programs through local agencies to reduce the needs associated with panhandling. 1C, request permanent funding from the province of Ontario and the County of Simcoe for the County of Simcoe's mobile outreach pilot program in downtown Barrie if deemed to be successful by the City of Barrie and the County of Simcoe. D, changes to the city's bylaws, protocols, and processes to prohibit the use or distribution of tents or tarps in public parks or on public lands without a permit, prohibit the distribution of food and grocery products in public spaces without the use of a permit, and reduce the time required to address camping in parks and storage of goods in parks or public spaces. E, methods to prohibit the payment to panhandlers on city streets, intersections, and highway ramps. F, the placement of signs on city off-ramps to discourage panhandling or financial support thereof, and encouraging donations to local social service agencies. G, work with the County of Simcoe and Province of Ontario on ways to build more supportive housing for community members experiencing adverse mental health and addictions. H, appeal to the County of Simcoe for funding to help individuals transition from unemployment to employment through training opportunities. I, schedule a public meeting to be held at the Community Safety Committee regarding the chronic homelessness, addictions, and mental health supports in the City of Barrie. J, have staff apply for any provincial or federal funding opportunities available to support the options outlined in this motion. Part 2, that funding of up to $825,000 per annum for 2 years from the reinvestment reserve be made available to any of the fund options detailed in paragraph 1 that are undertaken as required. Part 3, that if necessary, the Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to waive the city's purchasing bylaw to award any items or services required to undertake the options listed in paragraph 1. And finally, 4, that the Chief Administrative Officer provide quarterly updates to the Community Safety Committee regarding the effectiveness of the options that are undertaken as part of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Thank you, Madame Deputy Clerk. I am going to read through this because it's a long motion, and it'll give folks a second crack at it as it's being read out, and I'm sure there'll be some discussion around the table. So this is a direct motion, options to address chronic homelessness in the City of Barrie. 1, that the Chief Administrative Officer consider utilize the following options to address chronic homelessness and enhance public safety in the City of Barrie. 1A, request funding from the Province of Ontario for 1, additional financial support for the Rapid Access Addiction Medicine Clinic to provide more beds and to increase the hours of operation, or provide 2, for a similar organization that provides long-term counseling and treatment. B, approve funding for the following: a Family Reunification Fund to pay for the transportation costs and help reunite individuals with families or support groups. 2, the operation of a shuttle service for individuals released from the Central North Correctional Centre. 3, a cooling and warming centre for at-risk individuals and the provision of daily meal programs that are currently being offered on public lands and in public parks over multiple years. 4, to the Salvation Army or a similar organization to support a lunch program. 5, for food security programs through local agencies to reduce the needs associated with panhandling. C, requests the permanent funding from the Province of Ontario and the County of Simcoe for the County of Simcoe's mobile outreach pilot program in downtown Barrie, if deemed to be successful by the City of Barrie and the County of Simcoe. D, changes to the city's bylaws, protocols, and processes to 1, prohibit the use or distribution of tents or tarps in public parks or on public lands without a permit. 2, to prohibit the distribution of food and grocery products in public spaces without the use of a permit. And 3, to reduce the time required to address camping in parks and storage of goods in parks or public spaces. E, methods to prohibit the payment to panhandlers on city streets, intersections, and highway ramps. F, the placement of signs on city off-ramps to discourage panhandling or financial support thereof, and encouraging donations to local social service agencies. G, work with the County of Simcoe and Province of Ontario on ways to build more supportive housing for community members experiencing first mental health or addictions. H, appeal to the County of Simcoe for funding to help individuals transition from unemployment to employment through training opportunities. I, schedule a public meeting to be held at the Community Safety Committee regarding chronic homelessness, addictions, and mental health supports in the City of Barrie. J, have staff apply for any provincial or federal funding opportunities available to support the options outlined in this motion. Paragraph 2, that funding of up to $825,000 per annum for 2 years from the reinvestment reserve be made available to fund any of the options detailed in paragraph 1 that are undertaken as required. 3, that if necessary, the Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to waive the city's purchasing bylaw to award any items or services required to undertake the options listed in paragraph 1. In paragraph 4, that the Chief Administrative Officer provide quarterly updates to the Community Safety Committee regarding the effectiveness of the options that are undertaken as part of this motion. And Councillor Hamilton, would you like to begin with your comments?
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor Nuttall, I know that motion is a lot to digest, so I would like to spend just a minute setting the context as to why we put forward this direct motion this evening. I don't think any of us are surprised by the fact that we are dealing with a chronic homelessness crisis in Barrie, as are many other municipalities across the province. And in part, this is due from a lack of affordable housing, which, again, we've prioritized as a city. Last week, staff held the Affordable Housing Symposium. We have steps in place right now to update our affordable housing strategy. I wish these affordable housing units could be done overnight. But the very real reality is that right now we have 350 to 400 individuals within our city limits that identify themselves as homeless. And that data actually was taken prior to COVID, so we can all presume that those numbers are probably a lot higher now. And I've said this before around this table, but 70–80% of those individuals that are unhoused attribute this to being due to the fact that they suffer from mental health, addiction issues, and/or substance abuse. So we know we've got to start taking a harder look at how we are addressing chronic homelessness in Barrie, but also, more importantly, what we're doing to treat the root cause of chronic homelessness. But equally as important is we have to be aware of some of the effects that chronic homelessness is having on our community and on our residents at large. I think being in this seat for many of us has created a new level of awareness in terms of how the safety and the reasonable enjoyment of city assets is being impacted by some of the behavior attributed to segments of the homeless population. We're all hearing stories, I think too many stories, stories from people who are taking their dogs for walks in our city parks and ending up with needles in paws. Stories from parents whose teenagers are accessing trails within public spaces and that are being approached by people within encampments and getting lured into tents. We've heard firsthand from businesses that are shutting down due to decreased foot traffic and a perceived fear of our downtown core. We're hearing stories, more and more stories of trespassing, home invasion, vandalism, aggressive behavior in public spaces, overdosing on front lawns, stabbings, the list goes on. And I'm sure you're all becoming aware with these stories and experiences that our residents are expressing. Most recently, we have heard that the Barrie Minor Baseball has canceled all diamond permits at Queen's Park due to a presence of individuals that are participating in drug use and break-ins in the washroom and canteen facility. The Barrie District Girls Youth Baseball have also declined to book this field for the same reasons. This is not okay. We cannot continue to accept this as being okay. I think the motion in front of us all tonight introduces a very balanced approach to address both of these issues, to deal with some of the immediate concerns that we are all hearing and facing by residents with respect to safety, while also proposing some alternative solutions to address the issues and root causes of chronic homelessness. So I'm just going to finish by saying that there is not one solution here. If this was easy, we would have done it already, as would other municipalities across the province. So this is going to take a concerted effort by everyone, by council, by staff, by the county, by Barrie Police Services, by social services that are being offered within our city. We have to start exploring all options, and that's why we're presenting the direct motion this evening. And I also want to commend staff because they are looking at other municipalities as well that are facing the same challenges we are. Guelph, Wellington, St. Thomas, Dufferin County. I know that we're all keen to adjust our efforts, not only based on our own results, but also the results that other municipalities are facing these same challenges as well. So I'll leave it at that, as I know I'm assuming there's quite a few comments and questions tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. I have a list. If you're not on it, then you need to tell me now. I have Councillor Morales, Councillor Negussi, I have Councillor Riepma, Councillor Kungle, Councillor Nixon. Is there anyone else who'd like to make comment? Councillor Harvey, you're now on the list. So I will go to Councillor, and Councillor Corser. So I will now go to Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. Here's what I know regarding these concerns that we're having now, a month ago, a year ago. This is not the same Barrie that I grew up in. This, unfortunately, is not the Barrie I remember. And here's the thing, I'm not old enough to be wishful for a yesteryear that I'm biased. A lot of people sometimes wish for the past. It's the idea of being nostalgic. I'm still young enough that it was only 10, 15 years ago. The Barrie I remember is the Barrie that my parents immigrated to this country and chose to raise me in. It didn't have me in fear of having my car broken into. Specifically, I want to address one instance. Mayor Nettle, I went to a movie last night, and when my phone buzzed while I was in the movie, it said, your iPad is now out of range on Commerce Drive, my city device, and I rushed out of the movie theater thinking my car got broken into. I've never been in a situation where if I've left the device in my car, I'm like, that I wanted to rush out. That is the reality I'm in. I know everybody's reality is a little bit different. The Barrie I remember didn't have on and off ramps at the highway that constantly have had people panhandling, which creates unsafe conditions for both them and the people in the cars. I'm aware that a large town growing into a small city brings with it challenges that are inevitable, and I, for one, have embraced that growth, but accepting and embracing growth does not mean surrendering to not feeling safe in your own city. For those reasons, I'll be voting in favor of the motion before us tonight. I'm aware that this is a widespread problem. We've heard about other counties and cities, so let's not pretend that it's only Barrie, and that there's no magical solution. But as Councillor Hamilton alluded to, I'm extremely confident that the initiatives in this motion, and specifically leaning on my 8 years on City Council and seeing the problem only get worse, that there's absolutely no reason why I can justify voting against trying new, bolder approaches.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. I have Councillor Negussi next.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. I support this motion. As some of you might know, I'm in the social service industry, and having a first-hand experience working with, on front line, I have had the privilege to engage with some of the most vulnerable communities in our city. Within these encounters, I have come across numerous remarkable stories. And one of the most common and heart-touching one is that almost everyone miss their families, friends, and loved ones. And I know some of these individuals are not originally from Barrie. Pretty much you can find from all over Ontario. And assisting them to return to their families is a great idea. And I sincerely believe that this motion holds a potential permanent solution to facilitate the reunification of these folks with their families and loved ones. So I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Negussi. And I'll go to Councillor Riepma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support this motion as well. I think with a bit of reluctance, but I think exactly as Councillor Hamilton mentioned, when we heard about the Barrie baseball group, I called you and I said, you know, we really need to do something because this is no longer acceptable. And it hasn't been acceptable for a long time, and certainly in Ward 1 we have the same issues. So it's not only Ward 2, it's others as well. I'm very much in support of Part A of the motion, which calls on funding from the province. I think it should go further, actually, because I think we really need to call on the province to increase ODSP for starters and some of the other support programs, because if you follow the money, you can know that nobody can survive on ODSP. And now that Mr. Prowse's title has been changed to the Chief Social Services Officer, I think that that is one of the items that I think he needs to pursue as well. I told you that I have some reluctance. I have reluctance because I think some of the items are maybe not workable or may not work out as well as we might hope. But I do think there's a lot to get started on, and that if we start on them, maybe we'll get somewhere. I'm very supportive of having a public meeting at the Community Safety Committee. I think that will bring in a lot of interest from the public, and we will probably get some good ideas along the way. I would also hope that we will invite Simcoe County and representatives of the province and also the federal government to that meeting, so that I think we can have a more fulsome discussion. This is a complicated problem. If there was an easy answer to it, we'd have had it long ago, and it needs a lot of people to be involved in order to start to fix it and to get to some of the root causes. And I think that Mr. Prowse really needs to start to build a big tent and invite a lot of people into it to have this discussion. But I do think that doing some of these things, we can move the needle a little bit. But it takes a lot more than what's on this paper, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rietma. Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So in reviewing it, I think for some similar comments again, a lot of the items touched on this, we've been circling in conversations about who's responsible for what. So I'm not going to get into wordsmithing or drilling down into the details. I do look forward to staff bringing back what's possible. At first blush of it, of course, it's much broader, I think, as Councillor Rietma was talking about, and interesting enough, a large conversation that we were having at the Board of Public Health this morning around food security, housing, homelessness, but also income, and really that looking at kind of some root situations. I guess a couple of pieces that stand out to me. I will support it as it currently stands, because I think it's good just to get this moving. While there's some things that I'm not completely comfortable with, I'm willing for that to come back to a conversation around positive and negative consequences, what's possible, how is it being interpreted. But one piece I'd like to just point out was under, and I guess maybe I'll reframe this, and staff might not have the current timing, but from a direction, not knowing which takes precedent. So the timing of the public meeting at the Community Safety Committee versus the quarterly updates. And so I'm sure you'll probably be getting a lot of questions, but just being clear about how soon those will be scheduled, and then making sure there's lots of public opportunity. And then my only other comment would be, now that we're really pushing into committee structures versus town hall structures, any pros or cons to how residents can engage in actually sharing feedback and asking questions, and is that best supported at a committee or perhaps an additional town hall if there's a bit more of more freedom in the structure of having the conversation. I will share that from a Ward 3 feedback from residents because of the 400 ramp, particularly at the intersection just north of Grove and Bayfield. while individuals do speak highly around a compassionate approach, often it is always framed in safety of everyone involved about the slowing of traffic and what's happening there. So I think that that would be welcomed. The one piece that speaks to changes to the city's bylaw, so this is 1D, item 2, to prohibit the distribution of food and grocery products in public spaces without the use of a permit. So I struggled with this a bit, and then through some brief clarity, if it helps those kind of, without having this in hand publicly, to understand that I think the intention here is really focused on how do we redirect that? So we still don't want to see food go to waste or food rescue opportunities, but we do want to see that done in a way that is a safe handling of food, and it's directional to agencies that can get it into the hands of individuals that can use it. So that's great, and I like that. I'm hoping some of that type of clarity can come out during the town hall. I mean, the other pieces really are part of when staff bring back perhaps effectiveness of options, whether or not there's any framing of that to understand from staff and or from colleagues sitting at Simcoe County Council what's happening in tandem. So how soon would bylaws go into effect after they may be identified what changes would take place? And in addition to that, how do we communicate that well? Because we've got a lot of people, I think, who've outreached through the pandemic on their own or through different agencies informally that probably want to know they're not making a misstep in trying to help, and how do we best make sure that people are guided around where we can redirect some of these resources. Those are my first blush comments to that. I'm very, very keen to see what can happen here. And I think, you know, while we might talk about different situations that are happening, you know, always framing this in, you know, aspects of our city that are very safe, opportunities for us to be connected in safe ways with resources. And my compliment, I think, in particular to this, which I was not expecting when I heard about the framing of it, is the warming and cooling centers. That has been one that has been of great frustration, where we are always sitting down with who's going to fund this, who owns it, and I know this is presenting us stepping into a space we don't have to be operating in, and I actually really respect the appetite of council to take this on. In the meantime, I believe it was County Council that identified $100,000 in the budget to address that. We heard from our front line, if we're talking about staffing it appropriately, $300,000 a year. So I don't know how far the budget will go that we set, so I do like the active, proactive approach to wherever else we can get capital dollars or grant funding dollars to supplement this. But I would say, without having certain priorities, that would be one I'm hoping is prioritized, so we're meeting a bit more of an immediate need that's coming up this summer. And those are all my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. And I have now Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. As I was leaving here yesterday after the Mayor's Task Force meeting and driving home, I remembered a few months ago, actually, you were with me. We had a breakfast function to attend for a former councillor and federal member of Parliament, Ed Harper. And at that breakfast, I got chatting to a few other people at the table. And the point of the conversation was how things have changed in Barrie, and especially downtown. And one of the people at the table we were talking to is a fellow who's always been known as Mike the Barber. Mike had a barber shop in Barrie next to the theaters for forever, you know. And I made the point. I said, you know, things have changed so much, and I said, I remember back, you know, when I first got here in the early '80s, believe it or not, as a young child. I said we had one guy in Barrie. We had one guy who was always kind of strolling up and down Dunlop. He'd spend his afternoons in Fred Grant Square back then, before Meridian. And everybody in town knew him. And Mike said, oh yeah, Larry. You know, and I said, exactly. I said, you know, the people that lived here then, not only were they aware of the kind of the single person, you know, suffering from homelessness and some mental health issues, but most people knew his name, and most people helped, and you know, he always got a free pass from the theaters just to be able to come in and on a hot day and watch a movie and stay cool, and in the winter stay warm. And then we look at today, it's just an incredible change. I mean, it's just night and day, and it's obviously most cities in Canada and North America and the world. But I think the one thing that hasn't changed is for the most part, the residents of Barrie are caring, compassionate people. They do want to help. They do understand. Unfortunately, many have reached the point where they no longer feel they can visit a park. They stroll downtown or stop at a traffic light without fearing for their safety, or being subjected to unwelcome requests for money. As Councillor Hamilton said, businesses and homeowners have seen a huge increase in theft and vandalism, open drug use, and trespassing. And as a council, as a municipality, there's only so much we can do. I think this motion is addressing pretty much all of the things that we can do, and I'm glad that we're heading in that direction. I think that it's a very broad motion with many points. I think that I'm going to say that not everyone in this city is going to agree with every point. I think that probably not everyone at this table is going to agree with every point, but we are working in the right direction, and I'm glad to see that. You know, as I say, it's not the perfect solution. There's a dozen initiatives in there, but I believe we found a balance equally between assistance and setting reasonable limits for those impacted. So I definitely will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Next, I have Councillor Harvey and then Councillor Corser.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I too will support this. By reading through it, it does seem like it's a very well thought out motion. Like, I mean, obviously, people are going to have varying opinions whether it's perfect or close to perfect, but it, like Councillor Nixon just said, it's a step in the right direction. We have to do something because, like, even just this past weekend, several of us were down on the waterfront for an event, and we witnessed firsthand what's going on. And it's not the first time I've seen it, unfortunately. And, like, I mean, obviously, certain drugs are legal nowadays, so sitting there with a bong is not against the law anymore. But when you've got people sitting off to the side and they're cooking drugs ready to use needles, and you've got kids in parks right nearby, we've got a problem. Because I don't think any of us should ever say that that's acceptable. And that's where, hopefully, with some of this that's contained within this motion, will assist people to get out of that cycle. Offer people the help, sometimes maybe even coerce people into that help, because sometimes, obviously, due to mental health issues and stuff, people don't necessarily know the path that they need to take to be able to break the cycle that they're currently in. And unfortunately, there's no laws that force you to be able to do that either. But hopefully, with some of this, we'll be able to show people in a caring, compassionate way that there's a way to break that cycle. Because even just coming into Dunlop, driving down Dunlop Street for visitors coming in from the 400, one of the first signs you see as you're getting close to our downtown is advertising a methadone clinic. Right off the hop, you're painting your city as you've got a drug problem. So even something as simple as that, I don't think is exactly the advertising that we as a city want, nor does any other city in this province want. And like, I mean, I've had a few people that I know that have grown up in this city, no longer live here, and when they have come back for a short visit because they've got some errands to run or whatever, they've reached out to me going like, what the heck has happened to this place? This is not the city that I grew up in 15, 20 years ago. And like, I've been here for 24 years, and I know it really has taken a turn for the worst in certain areas. And we need to do something. We can't just sit and allow the same cycle to continue to spiral, because really all we're doing is throwing a bunch of money at various resources to ensure that they can continue to survive, but we're not actually assisting them in breaking that cycle. So I'm hopeful that some of this will assist those to be able to help break the cycle. And a key piece in this too is the family reunification, because without having those family supports and those people that you care for and trust with their opinions on the situation that you are in, it makes it difficult for some to be able to listen to people. And sometimes it sounds like a bit of a sounding board, and that's where I'm hoping that some of this reunification and allowing people to get back with their families and not have to worry that, oh, I don't have the couple $100 to get me wherever I need to get. It's probably the best couple $100 this council will ever spend to assist people to be able to get back with their families. And I'm hopeful that our resources within the city are on board with this too, because I think that's a critical piece here. We need to have all of the current supports that are in this city to also be on board with this, and we all need to be on the train, and the train needs to be moving the same direction, because if we've got too many different strategies that are going to be doing different things or being counterproductive to a successful outcome for these people, I think that will be problematic. So I'm hoping that all of our resources do come to the table at this public meeting, and that there's some good dialogue, so that way, as a group, we can all work together for that common goal. And I'll leave my comments at that, but I definitely do support this, and I think in reading this, it is very well thought out strategy to take that first couple of steps forward.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Corser.
This is a really big motion put forward, and trying to digest it all. I think this is, since I've at least been in the chair, this is the biggest thing that's come forth, and probably the most challenging for me, because there's so many questions, and trying to wrap my head around all this. I do remember Councillor Nixon, the gentleman in which you refer. I did not know his name was Larry. So I've seen the changes in our community. I've seen the mental health issues, particularly, that is so worrisome, and it's difficult. I said that I would never raise my son in a bubble. And so I've always tried to be open about such things, like I've taken him to the Busby Center and different things, but some of the things I have seen goes beyond what an 8-year-old should witness. And to have that conversation and try to explain it, because it's not just unhoused people. It is people with deep challenges, problems, and issues that need help. So I do have some questions on just about every single line. I am going to support this because I think it's working through each point on the motion. I think that we can come to a balanced support after conversations with our community partners and with people around the table. I do have issues with item 1D, but I think that is something like, will the supports be available? How will that play out in actual motion once it's put in play? I think that needs to be balanced in conversations surrounding that to support people, to make sure that they have a place, that there are supports in the community. But again, I will support this, and looking forward to dialogue to so many different points, because I know there's going to be a lot of our community partners that are coming to kind of come into this, and I know that we are not social workers. We are not qualified to make these kind of decisions, and I'm really looking forward to bringing together all community partners to help fill this out, to put more meat on the bone, if you will, for each point and how it can be well balanced within our community. And that's all I have, but I will support this going right now as it is printed.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Yeah, there's a lot here, and really appreciated hearing the comments from colleagues around the horseshoe. And I do reflect as well, and just like Councillor Rietma, when I heard about Queen's Park and Barrie Minor Baseball and being alumni like Councillor Morales, like, wow, you are not wanting to play at our downtown park, which used to be the place you wanted to play. It was a place where, wow, I'm playing at Queen's Park. That's exciting. And one thing, in connecting it to our homeless, many years ago, the Wrinkled Warriors, a wonderful group of baseball enthusiasts, used to play, I think it was every Wednesday, with the members from the Busby Street Center. And Mandy Hilliard used to bring those groups together. So can you imagine the difference where today we're saying our community doesn't want to play baseball because of our marginalized population, when once upon a time, not once upon a time, years ago, they actually played together with a group of senior retired men who loved baseball. They played together. It was incredible. So I used to go there. It was a great way to do outreach for homeless people. So I used to do homeless outreach. So I would go there to play baseball, not to play baseball, but to make connection with somebody who was homeless. They would then trust you. That guy's not a bad guy. He played baseball, and maybe he will help me get housing or income support or see a doctor. So it's really disheartening as a Barrie kid to see that Queen's Park has become a place where our marginalized and our citizens are in conflict. So does this solve the problem? Of course it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, the Alliance on Homelessness started in 1997, I think. Here we are in 2023, and the problems are bigger. The amount of homeless is larger. The Alliance has a two-pronged system. It's called coordinated access and a by-name list approach. You know, they're doing all they can. It's not enough, we know that. But this is in public administration, it's called a wicked issue because it's so complex, homelessness. So I think this is a step in trying to find, we're investing here. We're investing in some real items to help people when they need it, and to also create some reasonable, fair limits, which I think are respectful of people. So, you know, I think what really it comes down to is, you know, City of Barrie taking a real interest in trying to do something different, to be collaborative, and obviously as part of this, the Alliance on Homelessness will be certainly a key partner in those. I mean, I like the term that Councillor Rietma gave to our CEO, but you know, really to be able to really have that dialogue and look forward to the Community Safety Committee, and kudos to them for having that brought to their committee. And also, I think one of the other key items, I see the outreach, and remember many years ago, the City of Midland did an outreach for homeless people downtown. Eventually, it was funded through one of the Homeless Initiative funds, and it was picked up by, I think, their downtown merchants for a while. And it did help. I was a part of the kind of a steering committee oversight. So I'm hopeful that the downtown program will be helpful, getting people to support. But also, just in maybe a comment that, and I've lost track, but over the years, there's been a number of programs funded through both mental health and addiction that have an outreach component. So I would encourage those that are involved in this from the city perspective, and to really check in with our Ministry of Health funded organizations and Health Canada funded organizations, or those who are funded through the county, how many FTEs or staff or do we have that are funded to do outreach, and how can we coordinate those efforts? I remember years ago, I'm forgetting the name of the acronym, but there was I don't know if it was about the CARE team, or Busby had coordinated an effort downtown with a number of organizations to do that work together. So I think the key is whatever we do, we need to do this together as all levels of government and citizens, organizations working together to help our most marginalized, and also to help our citizens enjoy parks. It's again a shame that Queen's Park has been an inflection point for those marginalized and those who want to enjoy the park with them, as opposed to be removed from the park because of them. So hopefully we can make that change and welcome our young baseball players back to Queen's Park. Wouldn't that be nice? So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. There's nothing really I have to say other, that hasn't been said, right? I think somebody mentioned that there probably wouldn't be one person that supported everything full-hearted, and I think this is sometimes the challenge. We come here and we try to do what's best for the city, and sometimes it's not always the most comfortable, but when we only do what makes us feel good in the warm and fuzzy way, it actually becomes a hindrance. So I think of like the battle on the opioid crisis, and we always talk about the Portuguese model. And, you know, I had a conversation with somebody, and we have failures in our country with that because we take parts of the program, but we never look at it from tip to toe. And I think this motion actually gives, some awkward and uncomfortable conversation, but it's got a lot of positives, you know, to the point where we are entering into things like we do not employ a single social service employee. And to take this and look at some of the challenges, and, you know, kudos to Mayor Nuttall, who's been working with all the partners on the phone, talking this over, comfort levels, and coming back and realizing the one common thing is the warming center and the cooling center. And, you know, putting that in and putting us in a lane that we're not normally in. And truth be told, there's something we heard from the county. It's not a common funded program, which used to be done by faith-based groups and stuff and organizations, where we understand it is a challenge in our population, and hopefully by drawing people into some of the services, there's an opportunity to seek help and have that conversation. So I think it's great work. As you can hear some of the comments, yes, people are a little bit uncomfortable, but the support around this table is that what we're doing is not working. It's escalating in a negative way, and we're trying a new method. And, you know, I think we've given direction to our CAO, but very wide open to look at a lot of different options. And I think that's going to be something that really makes this successful, and not being very scriptive to, you know, putting you in a box. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. I've got quite a lot to say on this, and so you forgive me for taking a few minutes on it, but I want to start out by saying that what's being approved here tonight is not a definitive solution. I don't think there's anyone on the table who's saying that this is going to change anything overnight. We're giving the direction to our CAO to do the best that our team at City Hall can do with an upset limit of $825,000 a year for 2 years, and to pick and choose and to action or report back on items as we move forward. That's what we're doing. And Deputy Mayor Thompson just used, you know, some words in terms of boxing, and I think what we're doing is we're creating the space to try things. And some of them are going to work, and some of them are going to fail. But I come from a world in my life, I look at things, and certainly in the private sector I look at things. When there's a problem, you name it, you work through it, you learn from defeats, and you celebrate victories. And there's going to be quarterly reporting that does all of those things. There's going to be things that we learn along the way that we aren't even talking about right now. There's going to be items that we try and fail. There's going to be successes, but we're going to work through it. And we have to work through it, because our job is not to stand up for one segment of society. Our job is to manage a city, all segments of society. Our job is to empower individuals, and it's to create opportunity. That opportunity needs to be for those who are hurting and need help, and that opportunity needs to be for kids to be able to play in parks. It is our job to balance all of these interests And we're never going to hit all of the things, and we're never going to have a home run every time. But we have to be able to balance the interests, or we're failing as a city, and we're failing as a council. I think what we're trying to do right now is kind of do a course correction. Madam Clerk, I think that I'd like you to pull up some of the photos, and I, don't want to get too alarmist here, but if you can scroll through to the next one. And the next one. Next one. I think there's one more. Like, this is Sunnydale Park. This is Sunnydale Park. This is the former golf club turned into community park. This is on the trails that I used to run with my son and daughter while they were in strollers, and I attempted to stay fit, eating too many of their crackers along the way. And that's what it's turned into. But that is not actually the biggest problem. And there's a cost to cleaning that up, yes. And there's, we've had people dying in tents because of trying to keep them heated and it going up in fire. And that's a terrible problem. But there's other problems. When I was door knocking last year, this is how far back this reaches for me. We got these pictures, 2 weeks ago, members of council, something like that, maybe 3 weeks ago. When I was door knocking last fall, I was over by the college, just off Johnson Street, and by Cheltenham. And a lady was out front of her house and with her daughter, and they were washing their Jeep. And they said, you're running for mayor? I said, yeah. And they said, we wouldn't be usually voting for you. I said, well, that's nice. But we're voting for you this time. And I said, why? What's going on? He said, we need to do something. What happened? They were going for a run through Sunnydale Park when an individual started trying to lure a 21-year-old young lady into a tent. The shocking part is not that. The shocking part is 2 weeks later, I was told at another door about a lady going for a walk in Sunnydale Park with her daughter and another 14-year-old, and that exact same story. That's scary. And I don't want to be too alarmist, but to quote our CAO, who is probably going to be upset that I'm quoting him right now, that it can't just be compassion. It's not going to get us all the way. We need to have compassion. We need to have empathy. I talked about it in our opening statement. Like, we want to be over the top compassionate for people in this city. But we need to have a lawful, safe place to live as well. And that compassion needs to be extended to those who are hurting, who are homeless, who are fighting mental health issues, who are fighting addictions, and it needs to be an overtop compassion for our young people as well. There's I think another picture up here. Oh, well, maybe one more. Madam Clerk, I don't know if it made it. Oh, one more. A few more. Is the picture from the Queen's Park. We're not going to see this anymore. The reason I tried to search around to find this, and one of our staff members found this on the city. It's actually a city-owned picture on the city website. But right now, we're not going to see this. We're not going to see kids playing baseball, organized baseball, at Queen's Park. And I would offer you this. When we do see that again, we know that we've been successful. And I don't know that the things that we're passing tonight will result in that success, but I do know it's a start. It is uncomfortable, without a doubt, to say that the good works and the passions of some people need to be amended. It's uncomfortable because we know that these people are trying to help and trying to do what's good and right and honest and fair, but we have to do it in a way that's going to result in long-term help for these individuals who are experiencing these pains. That's why we're encouraging folks to give to our social service agencies rather than panhandlers. That's why we're asking that the food programs, which we're actually agreeing to help fund here tonight, which I never thought we would do, never thought that I'd support, being honest. I think I probably said in this council chamber between the election and now that I wouldn't, right? But we are, because that's the right approach to do it. To do everything we can to help the individual who's hurting get the help from the organizations that are available. That's managing the city, that's creating opportunity, and that is certainly empowering individuals. So thank you, members of council, for building consensus around this. We're all going to get complaints from people in the next hour, okay, if you're not already getting them. And the complaints will be far and wide. You're spending too much money on this, you're not spending enough. There's not enough teeth in it. Why are you doing that? It should just be help, help, help. We're going to get those complaints. The good news is, I would offer that you direct them all to come out to the Community Safety Committee, to the public meeting, that we have that discussion as a community. And there's going to be ideas that come in through that. There's going to be statements. There's going to be beliefs that we need to adopt, that we need to adapt to, and that we need to move forward with. And that'll all come out in the wash over the next few weeks. Finally, I wanted to go through a couple of the items. Penetang Jail. We're looking at, in this motion, the funding of helping individuals who are being released get back to where there's some supports for them, giving at least the opportunity for that. That's a great thing. Family reunification. And it's not just for family, because in some cases, as Councillor Corser, you and I chatted, maybe the family's part of the reason that there's trauma. But finding those support structures that exist and being able to fund that reunification. Cooling and warming center. It was the one common thing we hear from every single social service. I've met with Elizabeth Fry, John Howard. We had Jennifer Van Gennep from, thank you, SCATA. I was going to an acronym and I was probably going the wrong one. So thank you. From SCATA, come and make a deputation here. She actually came to that meeting. Met with the Busby on a couple of occasions already. We've spoken to tons of businesses and people that care and are giving money and donating to these causes. And everybody is saying we need something and somewhere for folks to go. We're spending $825,000, a potential $825,000 per year over 2 years. And we're creating a message and a standard that says, please give to social services. It'll literally be as you be coming off of the highway, it's please support our social services who have social workers, who have mental health professionals, who have addictions professionals, so that they can help the people in our community. If there's one thing that we all know about Barrie, it's that we take care of people who are hurting. Myself and many around this table have been the recipients of that love, and I know that that will continue. The final piece, CAO Prowse. We're not changing your title, okay? But I think that it actually, that this is a, and I know it was said as a joke, right? But this is actually your job, CAO. Your job is to take all of the ideas, hopes, and passions around this table and within our city, and to put it into practicum. And I want you to know that not only am I incredibly happy and encouraged by all the work that you and your team have done, because it's not just being yourself, but there's many individuals, but I have an immense trust that you're going to be able to find some successes for us along the way. And I know that you won't hide the failures or you know, only talk about the successes, but I know there's going to be successes here that we haven't seen before, and I can't wait for those for those wins and for the other opportunities to be found. With that, I'd like to call the vote on this matter, and we will go from there. So all those in favor?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote.
Okay. Madam Clerk, it passed, but you can go to a recorded vote, okay?
Well, since we know the outcome, I'll just go backwards anyways. I'm going to start with Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
Councillor Morales.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Councillor Nagusi.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Corser.
Yes.
Councillor Kungle.
Yes.
Councillor Nixon.
Yes.
Councillor Rietma.
Yes.
And Mayor Nuttall.
Yes.
The vote carries.
Madam Clerk? Yes, Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So I had an understanding that this may have taken hours and been a little bit more. So I'm going to introduce a quick motion without notice. I give you a very short heads up. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Motion without notice, no parking on Mapleview Drive East, that pursuant to Section 7.1 of the Procedural Bylaw 2019-100, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning no parking on Mapleview Drive East. And speaking very quickly to it, it's extremely urgent and a huge liability, so I can explain it if this passes.
It's moved by Councillor Morales and seconded by Councillor Hamilton that motion without notice, no parking on Mapleview Drive East, pursuant to Section 7.1 of the Procedural Bylaw 2019-100, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning no parking on Mapleview Drive East. As there's no moments for questions or comments, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor with regards to the motion without notice? And it carries. Councillor Morales?
Stomach dropped there for a second. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton, that traffic bylaw 2020-107 Schedule 1, no parking anytime, be amended to restrict on-street parking on both sides Mapleview Drive East from the Barrie Collingwood Railway, bracket Beedon Railway Crossing, end bracket, to the 25th Side Road.
It's moved by Councillor Morales and seconded by Councillor Hamilton. The traffic bylaw 2020-107 Schedule 1, no parking anytime, be amended to restrict on-street parking on both sides of Mapleview Drive East from the BCRY crossing to the 25th Side Road.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and we can be quick on time. I know there's a presentation. So this issue came up in the fall. It was actually brought to my attention by Councillor Hamilton, and it's a Ward 10 resident that brought it to our attention. Essentially, when the widening finished, there are some residents, not all, but some on the south side of Mapleview Ward 9 that are purposely parking their cars on the now 5 lanes and designed for a fast traffic road. It's extremely dangerous. We tried to address it. It went away during the winter. It came back with a force, specifically in April. And the wording of the motion actually comes from Mr. Annocements from Bala. And we were going to wait until June. We didn't want to get in the way of something this important that we expected to come tonight. But it is every single day that this is occurring, and it's traffic of people commuting home. And again, this isn't your 2-lane road. This is essentially a mini highway, and people pretend someone's parking on Bayfield Street. I think that will summarize the understanding. So we wouldn't have done a direct motion otherwise if it wasn't something that we want to address it immediately as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Corser?
Through your Mayor Nuttall. What is the exact location of this? I'm trying to look it up, and
So it would be from the railway tracks in St. Paul on Mapleview Drive East down to the 25th Side Road, which is essentially the end of Mapleview Drive.
Thank you.
If you want to look, sorry, if I may quickly, Mayor Nuttall, to respond, if you want to look at your device, look at Goodwin and Mapleview Drive. That'll give you a rough idea.
You're going west of?
I was following language I got from staff. You're right, I think if it's 25th Side Road, I didn't want to meddle in Ward 8 and 7.
I think Mapleview Drive East, Councilor Morales, there's actually two train tracks now I'm thinking about. There's the GO tracks at St. Paul, which I was just saying, which is I don't think identified in this. There's the BCRY track, which is at Huronia, between Huronia and Welham Road. That's a bridge, you're right. There's still train tracks, even though it's on a bridge. So which of the two sets of train tracks are we beginning at?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, the issues occurring around Goodwin and Country Lane. So ideally, it would be to address no parking from east of Huronia all the way to as far as Councillor Hamilton is comfortable. But if I could get clarification, Bella, just on the language.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, it is from the BCRY, so the all the way to through Ward 10 to the 25th Side Road. So it's that entire stretch.
So essentially starting between Huronia and Welham and going all the way to the city boundary.
Correct.
Perfect. So it does bleed a bit into Ward 8, but I'll let the councillor address it if he has concerns.
Councillor Rittman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Nuttall. I just wanted to confirm with staff that they're in support of this. I'm assuming that they are, but just confirm that.
Wrote the motion.
I'm sorry?
I was very clear that they helped me, they wrote the motion.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Sorry, Councillor Morales, they can write the motion, but that doesn't necessarily mean they support the motion. So I think we should let staff answer the question.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Riepma, staff are supportive of this motion, given that Mapleview Drive is a arterial road. I think it would be normal for no parking on both sides of this road.
Wonderful, thank you. And Deputy Mayor Thompson?
No, I was just confirming that that's great. Perfect.
Thanks. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to the mover of the motion. Was there an incident that happened in the last couple of days that's brought it to the direct motion that you said there was this had occurred after the winter?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, I'm going to just defer the question, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Hamilton. She's spoken a little bit more to this resident. I've been privy to the emails. It's one of those weird, it's occurring in my ward, but the person with more visible experience is in Ward 10.
Yes, and through you, Mayor Nuttall, I don't think it's limited to one person either. I think as Bala made very clear, this is an arterial road and you have cars parked is the example that Councillor Morales provided. It would be like having cars parked on Bayfield. It is a significant safety issue. I don't know of any, I would have to check with police reports in terms of any specific accidents, but there's been a number of near misses that have been brought to my attention. And so that's why staff felt that it should be dealt with more immediate as opposed to waiting to June. So just given the time that was sort of available tonight, we thought we'd bring it tonight. But apologies for sort of springing on everybody. But I think just given the significance and potential for significant accidents to occur, we want to deal with this immediately.
This question's for staff. Was this possibly just an oversight after the construction because of the expansion of it being an arterial road from a 2-lane to 2 lanes in both directions with a center median? Was this kind of something that should be in the traffic maintenance or standards, that when we do a road widening that automatically the no parking signs go up?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Deputy Mayor Thompson, that's correct. I think this is something that was an oversight, and we should have been corrected.
Thank
you. Councillor Harris?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and thank you for recognizing that some of this, a small portion of this is in Ward 8, and certainly, a far less, if even not residential part of the street. So haven't noticed parking there, but it certainly makes sense that it be a no parking clearly designated. So I support that as well. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So just before we call the vote on this, or before I call the vote on it, I really do want members of council to use items for discussion. It sounds like this one came from the immediate need, and I get that. But what we don't want to have is 15 items for discussion that aren't items for discussion because we're using them as direct motions every week. And so I understand where it came from and how it's come, but just want to remind everybody that we do have some processes we can use with regards to these types of items, and I think it'll make it a lot cleaner and easier too as we're discussing it, because it gives everyone the time, but it also gives everyone the wording and opportunity to look on a map or even drive it if they so choose. With that being said, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? And it's approved. I think that completes our motions, direct motions and motions without notice for the evening. I hope it does at least. And we will now move on to presentations. And we have a very polite and patient friend here waiting for this evening. So I now call upon Gary Scott, Vice President of Marketing for Napoleon, to come to the podium to provide a presentation this evening. Welcome to Barrie City Council.
Thank you. With myself up here, your entire audience just left. Good evening, Mayor Nuttall and members of Council. My name is Gary Scott. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Napoleon. With the warm weather upon us and a long weekend approaching, everywhere I go in the city, people ask me about barbecuing, so it's a very popular time of year for us. But tonight I'm not here to talk about barbecuing, I'm here to talk about sustainability, and I'm here at the request of Council to talk about the best practices and the highlights that Napoleon has had as a large employer in Barrie in the areas of sustainability. We recognize as a major employer that our residents expect us to be responsible in this area and set a good example, which we do. And we're really proud of the work that we've done, and we're not going to stop. There's lots more to do. So I'm delighted to be here with you tonight to talk about what we've accomplished and what we're working on in the future. So with that, I will jump into a very brief presentation. So when you talk about sustainability, it really starts with the consumer. I was inspired by the basketball team I saw here earlier this evening, because it's young kids in the home are the ones that are demanding you have to do better. We hear that from consumers when it starts at home. And our goal as a manufacturer is to making sure that we're looking out into the future to make sure that we're leaving as small of a footprint on the environment as we can. And that's not just local in Barrie, which I'm going to talk about, but also the products that we innovate and create for consumers around the world. So if I talk about what we're doing right here in our neighborhood, Napoleon's been engaged in a lot of activities to make sure that we have left the minimal footprint we can, despite the large scale of and growing scale of our operations. Whether it's fabricating product, diverting waste when we do make waste, minimizing it as much as possible, and also being more efficient in our electricity consumption. Those are just a few of the big areas that we focus on because they can have a real impact. And we put some numbers to that. If you look at 2021 versus 2022, the full year, this is on a per unit basis, so it's not like we just turn down the manufacturing volume and we get the savings. This is done on a cost per unit or a savings per unit basis. You can see there's been significant decreases in some of the areas where we would have an impact on the environment, right from saving electricity to waste diversion. And again, it really comes down to being smart in all areas of our business, because we know if we can be responsible for the environment, we can actually save some costs doing it. So there's a real financial benefit as well as a community benefit. A lot of numbers on the page here, but when you look at the amount of waste and you actually put a hard number to it, we've saved just over 26,000 metric tons. Now, I'm not sure how many dump trucks or however you want to quantify that, but it's a lot of stuff that we otherwise don't want to go into the landfill or don't want to go into the environment to begin with. And the Ontario government did a study around this, and when you do the math on what we've saved, they would say that's created also 186 jobs somewhere in the province. So that is their math. But again, it comes back to good business. It's good for the environment, but it's also good for our economy when we can reduce waste and make a positive impact on the environment. We've been recognized a number of different ways for the work that we're doing, but we don't just look for awards to put in our trophy case. We look for best practices that we can apply, and we look to share what we can with others, so other businesses locally can look at what we're doing and learn from it, hopefully apply and get the same results that we're seeing. Just this week last week we were recognized as one of Canada's best managed companies for the 11th year in a row. We're now at the top of the list. We're a platinum best managed company, but one of the big metrics of that is being environmentally sustainable. And thinking of what we're talking about tonight with sustainability wins, that factors into that amongst all the other things that we do. And we're involved in a number of other associations where we have made an effort to say we want to be recognized and share our learning and share our best practices with others. So it's not just us, but it's the whole community and the whole industry that wins. Now, I'm not here to sell you barbecues in any way, but I did want to share with you some of the great work that local residents are doing and what we're doing in our research and development efforts at Napoleon that not just benefit by creating jobs locally, but also create products that are being sold around the world and getting a lot of really, really good attention. So our goal is to take the number of units of products that we make, and for those of you who are not familiar with our company, we make not just barbecues, but we make hearth products as well as heating and air conditioning. Most of those are made right here in Barrie. And our goal is to make sure that our portfolio continues to grow with more efficient products. And our target is about 250% increase from when we started that goal 3 years ago to finish up in 2025. And we're on track to get pretty close to that. So one of the things that we're most proud about, we've just created this unit you see here. It's a fully electric grill. So today most people use a propane or a gas-powered grill. This one does all of the same things, however it runs on electricity. And that's a first. So the first full-size electric grill was actually made here in Barrie. Years from now, you'll be playing a board game, and that'll come up as a trivia question. You'll all be able to answer this one correctly now. So the first electric grill was designed by our research and development arm right here in Barrie. And the real benefit of it is, and I was shocked when I saw the pictures earlier today about the pollution in parks. Getting rid of propane cylinders and eliminating that from the environment is one big step in the right direction. And of course, pellet grills, which are quite common, rely on you cutting down trees, which also is not a sustainable practice when you're removing fruit-bearing, food-bearing trees from the environment to create a flavored pellet. So we see this as a major step forward in making our planet that much more environmentally friendly. The other one, which is very, very current, is our work in the area of heat pump and air handling technology. And while I could spend all night talking about all the great benefits in the technology of heat pumps, I don't think that would be the right use of the council's time today. However, back on a week and a half ago, back on May 2nd, we had a great presentation and an announcement here by the Ontario government where the Ontario Clean Home Energy Initiative was launched here in Barrie. It's one of 5 cities that will benefit from this program. And to simplify the program, what this is a government grant that will allow homeowners in Barrie to take a heat pump and a smart thermostat and combine it into a system that allows them to have a primarily electric heated home and air-conditioned home and get a financial incentive to make that conversion. Napoleon's leading the way in that technology. We're one of the companies that has done the most amount of work in this area. And of course, that work is being done by our research and development team, again, here in Barrie. And this is something that has really taken hold. Consumers are fascinated by this technology. When I mentioned heat pumps a few years ago, very few people would understand it. Now you're seeing it in the news quite often. So again, another thing that's happening locally that'll have a big impact on reducing the consumption of electricity for the residents of Barrie, as well as saving money and reducing greenhouse gases. And then a few other things that seem small. If you have an older gas fireplace in your home, you may have one of the ones that has a blue flame in it when you're not using it. That's the pilot light, so it's ready to light when you flick the switch. That's just wasting gas. Napoleon created the first, what we call on-demand technology. So in other words, you don't have the flame when you're not using it, but it lights up without having that. So again, you're not wasting gas, wasting money, keeping the fireplace ready, especially in the off-season. And last but not least here, we've switched a lot of our products, or starting to switch over to electric fireplaces. Consumers are looking for alternatives to fossil fuels, not just in their cars, and also we talked earlier about the barbecue, but also in their home and the fireplace. You now have electric fireplaces that give you the ambience of a fire, but not using and burning the fossil fuels that are associated with a traditional gas fireplace. So if I wrap up here, I started by saying we listen to what consumers are looking for. We try to make their life better because we provide a product that works better for them, but works better because it's sustainable, saves them money, reduces greenhouse gas. It's the future of what sustainable companies should be doing, and we feel like we're on the forefront and getting recognized regularly for it. We're still going to keep pushing ahead, but the important part is we're seeing the benefits right here in Barrie. It's creating jobs for our local residents. Having the government extend a program to the city of Barrie, I think, is a massive step forward for Barrie being on the leading edge of technology like that. So it's a real feather in the cap to this city to be able to get an extension of a program like that and be one of the first. And we know it's good for the environment, it's good for business, and when I think about where consumers are going, this is the type of technologies they're looking for. So we're excited to be on the forefront of this, and I'm proud to share what the company's been able to do. They're not just reduce waste in our operations, but also bring products that are being seen around the world as something that is on the front edge of technology. So with that, I'll pause here and be free to answer any questions about the company or our practices on sustainability.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for the presentation. And over the years, we've seen Napoleon grow, but we've also seen Napoleon, push the industry in a really good direction. Industries, actually, because you have such a range of products. So we're incredibly proud that you're here in Barrie. We're incredibly proud that it started here in Barrie, and certainly proud of all the work you're doing in terms of innovations related to environmental sustainability, both inside your footprint, but also around the world with the products you're producing. I'm going to open it up for questions from members of council, if that's okay with you. And Deputy Mayor Thompson would like to lead the way here.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall. Thanks for the presentation, Mr. Scott. And, you're a much smarter man than me, but I will tell you, if you show up with a barbecue, there are more people may have stayed in the gallery to hear your presentation. But that's just an opinion. I want to thank you. We did have an announcement, and some of it could have to do with the proximity to your factory because you guys, your innovation. And do you feel that we support you enough that if there is an expansion in your business that we're contributing to that? There's serviceable lands and there's eligibility for the expansion of Napoleon because you're a great community partner, a great employer, and you're leading the way in a lot of initiatives. So I'm just curious to see if you feel that we're doing everything we can to make sure that you can expand to the.
On behalf of the management team, I have not heard an issue come up that says you're holding us back from something that we would like to do. Now, having said that, if we had a broader discussion around what else could we possibly do, working together with you to help our business grow. I know we would come up with other ideas, but to answer your question directly, I'm not aware of anything you're doing to hold us back. And we appreciate the support we've had from council over the years, and we feel like we have a good relationship with the council as we have in the past and going forward. So I feel very optimistic about any initiative we bring forward to you. We're going to get the support as we have in the past.
Well, thank you.
Councilor Morales?
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. Mr. Scott, I'm aware that in the United States, the Biden administration passed some legislation incentivizing manufacturers such as yourselves to improve heat pump technology, specifically cold climate heat pump technology. I'm a nerd in this stuff, by the way, so in case you're going like weird. I really like this I like innovation, whether it's EVs or this. So heat pumps are the future. Like I personally believe like there should be no more gas installations of furnaces moving forward in new installs, and this kind of innovation is the future. But climates like Barrie get interesting because the heat pumps need that auxiliary the way you have it in your graphic right now. Here's my question. So the Biden administration kind of created an arms race with manufacturers in the U.S. to develop better cold climate heat pumps that can function better in -15 or colder weather. Because right now, most, and I don't know your product, but specifically, but most heat pumps start to get have difficulty around the -14, 15. So my question to you is Napoleon currently working on cold climate heat pump technology?
Napoleon is absolutely engaged, and more so than probably any other company in cold climate technology. And think about it, look where we live. So if anyone can do it, it's going to be done here. But the reason we're so focused on it, more so than other companies, is when you think about the needs for a cold climate heat pump, it's specific to a colder climate. So the northern part of the U.S., obviously most of Canada, this is the area where there's the biggest demand. Some other manufacturers are focused on other areas of the United States, but as an example, but don't have this as the highest priority for them. Being a Canadian company and having expertise in cold climate technology, it's something that we're on the leading edge of because it's in our best interest because of the communities that we serve, mostly along most along the northern border of the U.S. and throughout Canada. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, our products do work in a wide range of temperatures. The temperature has to go extremely cold for it to not work, and our operating range is very much within typical Canadian households' climate.
Perfect, that's incredible. And just as a closing comment, I know there were 2 companies from media reports, I don't have any insider knowledge, that were able to hit the -26. One company apparently in the U.S. was able to produce a product, and that was up to -33. And they did peer review, so they said they did it, and it wasn't just a lab. They submitted it to some universities in the Biden administration, and it was ratified. But what I am confident, Mayor Nuttall, is once the technology gets there, it's Napoleon that's going to be leading the way, specifically for Ontario and this northeastern region. So thank you for your presentation, Mr. Scott.
Great. Thank you.
Councilor Corser.
Good evening, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to our guest. I'm just wondering, with the labor climate we have right now, the issues that we have securing, most industries have securing labor. I'm wondering what challenges you may be having, and are you finding ways to overcome them, and is there any way that you can find supports from the city?
Like all companies in our industry, in all industries with manufacturing, finding labor continues to be a challenge. We have found it easier in recent months. I don't know what's exactly driving that. As the economy picks up and there's more needs for manufacturing, there are more jobs becoming available. We have been able to meet our manufacturing needs with our local talent. Having said that, it is still a challenge, less so today than it was even 3 months ago, we're seeing with our hiring. So it's getting better. I didn't hear the last part of your question. I think it was related to, is there something more that you could do to help us? If I heard
yes,
correctly?
if there's something more we could, as the city, assist you with. And you're finding there's a lot of turnover, not from any fault, of course, of Napoleon's, but just like the general market as it is now, the labor market as it is now.
I don't have a specific ask for you tonight in terms of what you could do to help. what we have had is good support with the local businesses in terms of when we do have job vacancies, we post it in all the sites that are possible, not just through our own corporate site, but there's some local registries where we can say we have a need for people, and that's been very effective to help us get work. So I think our needs are well met today, but I have no doubt we'll reach out if we need help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corser, and Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Mr. Scott. Nice to see you back in Chambers. It was a lovely celebration with the announcement and the news of that hybrid model. A piece that I guess I have a question about, and as we've connected with residents around the conversion to electric on different things, electric vehicles being one piece, and always hearing about misinformation out there and how we can engage residents in messaging. And when you were talking about, and it was very exciting to see the electric barbecue and the kind of promotion of fireplaces, is there any public communication that we can help promote or we should be aware of that helps people understand the benefit of converting from gas to electric, and or the ability to make changes in your home? So is the cost worth it, as usually the common piece? So I didn't know, is a lot of the changes that are being made really being taken up by individuals that are looking at designing new homes, new spaces, and incorporating that type of design and investment up front? Or is it affordable, or is there an incentive to actually taking the time to convert out a gas fireplace for an electric fireplace? And are your products in some way easily able to actually help individuals make that switch without massive redesign?
The question you ask is such a good one, because as a consumer, it's not an easy topic to wrap your mind around. If you are really into this area and you research it often, it's an easy choice. But for most people, when they go to buy an electric fireplace or a fireplace of any sort or new heating or air conditioning system, the last time they did it probably was measured in years, and if not, several years. So technology has changed since then. What we do as a manufacturer is try to educate the consumers as well as the trade that installs them to say there's local benefits available now, and certainly in Barrie they are available where they weren't 2 weeks ago and they weren't in the past. So there's local incentives to help do that. And here's education that you as an installer need to be able to share with a consumer who has really no idea what they need until they need it. And often, if you think about if you've ever had an issue where your heating's broken down or your air conditioning's broken down, the window for you to decide what you want to do is usually measured in how fast can I get it replaced because I'm too cold or I'm too hot. So our goal is to put that information in the hands of the people that can help the consumer the fastest. So that could be, as a manufacturer, having good information on our website, but the local installers who are able to answer those questions and figure out what their needs are and provide the solution, that's where we're spending most of our effort. I do think there's an opportunity, both with the government and perhaps local government as well, to help share that energy efficiency message and what are some of the options. I don't know what avenues there are to tap into all of that, but that would be something as I'll say a third leg of the stool, so to speak, to help consumers who are thinking, well, should I make a retrofit change, or should I consider this when I need to? Where do they turn for information? Having a government source would be seen as very, very credible, very reliable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle, and we'll now have Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. The beginning of what I have to say is going to probably sound like a Napoleon infomercial, but I can honestly say in my lifetime I've had several barbecues, and until I finally got my hands on a Napoleon, then I realized the difference, and I definitely would not go anywhere else. So much so that at my full-time job, they were looking at buying a barbecue. I won't say what brand, but it was not Canadian made, and I was like, why would you even consider buying that when we've got manufacturing 40 minutes up the road, and buy something Canadian? And thankfully, they couldn't get their hands on the American one, so there is a Napoleon barbecue at my full-time workplace also. To Councillor Morales' point, because I was too at at the press launch here, and because I live in a house that's 24 years old, basically both my AC and my air conditioning unit is getting right to that point, and I'm probably going to jinx myself by even talking about it tonight. But so I've done an extensive amount of research after we left here that day, and even that like NS18 model that you have in your slideshow is a cold climate unit that's good for minus 30 by the looks of it. Where I'm going with this though is, right now, it still has some reliance, obviously, on natural gas. Do you envision with your technology team that the day will ever come where the gas piece of it will be totally removed, whether it's supplemented by an electric furnace or just a much larger heat pump that would be able to do the job in the climate that we have?
Absolutely. And in fact, a heat pump will, in theory, could work down to absolute zero. There's still heat to be taken out of the air. Absolute zero is about minus 272 degrees. So we have cold days here in Barrie. It doesn't get that cold though. But what changes though is the colder it gets, the efficiency of the heat pump starts to decline. So if you live in an area where it's very cold, having a gas furnace allows you better efficiency, because on the coldest days of the year, a gas furnace provides greater efficiency than a heat pump that's working harder to extract the hot air out of the cold air, if I'm trying to simplify a complicated process. But you could, in theory, run a heat pump right to a very low temperature in most Canadian cities. It just wouldn't be as efficient as you would like. So for that reason, we often say, depending on the exact area you live in, you'd have a gas alternative, an electric alternative with the heat pump, and use a smart thermostat, which is what the Ontario Clean Home Initiative is all about, that says, well, based on the temperature and the price, the most efficient option for you is to use the heat pump up to this point, and then it may switch you to the gas heating for the best efficiency for the coldest days of the year. But you could eliminate the gas. In most cities in Canada, you could eliminate the gas altogether and use a heat pump.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I was just kind of curious where potentially we could be going with this. I know obviously the more electrical stuff that we start using and really rely on, it puts pressure on the grid, and we've been hearing Ontario Hydro doesn't really have any grandiose plans of adding any major line improvements in the next little while. So I guess it's that fine balance too as we try to get greener as we move forward. But thank you for your presentation, and I'm sure there's probably going to be some more Napoleon products in my house in the near future.
Fantastic, thank you.
I was actually going to ask, are you asking for a discount there, Councillor Harvey? That wouldn't be appropriate. Government grants, there you go. That's how you get the discount. Are there any other questions around the table? Seeing none, I really want to say thank you for coming out tonight, for taking the time. I know that you obviously have a very busy schedule, and it was actually a conversation with Chris that resulted in tonight's presentation. You know, the question that was just asked by Councillor Harvey, one of the interesting things that Electra, our local utility, is working on with the provinces is what is the path forward, and is there a single answer? And I think you basically answered it for us. But what the UK is doing is it's a multi-solution where we need our electric utilities to be working with our gas utilities to find the most efficient way forward. And that's exactly what the announcement was a week and a half ago here. And so I think we're on the right path. We're at the cutting edge for Ontario, being on the right path, but there's many other jurisdictions around the world that are ahead of us. And really do want to say thank you for manufacturing in our city and around our city, because not just here, it's also in Oro-Medonte, and also for putting some of the pressure on to be able to get last week's announcement in terms of lobbying for the government for it, and also for our staff who spent the time and effort to do that. I think it's a great news story, and obviously ends up having a lot more of your products sold locally, which we'd like to see.
Absolutely. Mayor Nuttall and members of council, thank you very much for your ongoing support for our company, and also for listening tonight, and it's been a real honor and pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. And if you leave, we're down to 0. There's no one left.
Very good. Thank you again.
You too. Thank you. That concludes our presentations for this evening. We're now at inquiries. Deputy Mayor Thompson, do you have any inquiries?
I have none. Thank you.
Any other members of council have inquiries? Councillor Kungle?
Thank you through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Mr. Bell. Just through the quick correspondence, to the benefit of members of council and myself, could you provide an update on the status of the sports grant and when that might be rolling out? I know I've been getting some questions at certain committees. Some agencies are kind of looking ahead saying, worst case scenario, do we have to pivot to apply to an Ontario Tourism grant by June 14th? Hoping you could share what the timing is for people to expect an announcement about the allocation.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kung. Wrong button. The process we used last year was we sent a memo to council indicating who got awarded the grants from the Recreation Sport Community Grant. And the very next day, we sent notices to all the successful applicants. There is a memo coming to council, to General Committee actually, on May 31st. And on June the 1st, all successful applicants will be notified. Direction was given to the Manager of Business Services this week to advise all applicants of that schedule, and I'll ensure that that's been done.
Thank you for the update.
Are there any other inquiries around the council table? Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. Deputy Mayor Thompson?
I have none, thank you.
Any other announcements around the table? Councillor Kungle?
I've got two announcements, so thank you, Mayor Nuttall. One is it's that time of year when usually we're getting questions about boulevard trees, specific to Ward 3. For those on Osprey Ridge Road, the update, because we know we had a lot of removal in the fall due to the ash borer beetle. For those that have been expecting their tree, the status update is that we are on track as planned to have that planting done by the end of the month of May. Activity can start as early as next week. So please watch for that while you were engaged on your tree species and notice that that would be happening. You should still see a door hanger or a communication around the day that the change will take place for planting of those trees. So thank you to staff and forestry for following up on that and engaging residents in the fall. I know I was limited on communications, of course, with the election, but great to see the approach that staff took with that area that saw a large devastation of the loss of boulevard trees. So my appreciation for that. My second announcement and thanks to staff in transit and communication, so to Brent and Rebecca for supporting an opportunity that came forward through the Baycats. I have sponsored through collaboration with them free transit bus, dedicated bus route to the Baycats game for the following 3. I'm hoping this is an opportunity for residents across many wards to check out the route with several stops tied to, I believe, our Allendale Recreation Centre, downtown around the transit terminal, and also in Ward 3, the East Bayfield Community Centre. So if you've got a Baycats ticket or heading to the game and can communicate that, you can jump onto a dedicated transit that will take you to the game and back. So the 3 that have a dedicated bus are Thursday, May 18th, which is tomorrow, the opening game. If you find me on the bus, which you will, and you chat me up about some of our programs and services, I will be giving out some gift cards to our East Bayfield Community Centre in promotion of public transit, active transportation, and also our rec facilities. The other one, just to share for those, if you might want to engage friends and colleagues or areas of focus, Thursday, May 25th is the Baycats theme night for healthcare providers and first responders. And on July the 20th, the Thursday night, it is military night, so hoping to get that word out through the Legion and to Base Borden. It's a lovely night, and many other themes are happening on Thursdays throughout the season, so check out the Barrie Baycats. And wishing them a good season ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. And now Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle, and through you. Just a quick update that the Ward 10 Advisory Council will be meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. to 8:15 at the Old West Wing on Prince William Way. It is an open meeting, so any Ward 10 residents that would like to join us, you are more than welcome to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Are there any other announcements for this evening? Seeing none, I would like to proclaim the week of May 28th to June 3rd as National Accessibility Week. I'm pleased to announce that the city's official mobile app is being featured in the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario's Transparency Showcase, published at transparencyshowcase.ipc.on.ca. I'd like to congratulate staff in the Information Technology and Communications who worked together to develop the new City of Barrie app, which launched in April 2022. So Rebecca and your team, thank you and congratulations. Please pass that on to your team. The city's annual street sweeping has begun. Residents are encouraged to not to push debris into the roadway. Large piles of sand or salt cannot be picked up by the street sweeper. For further information on updates, please visit barrie.ca/street sweeping. Registration is now, some of the names on the website, it's getting me. Registration is now open for summer recreation programs. For further information or to register online, please visit play.barrie.ca or in person at the Allendale Recreation Center, East Bayfield Community Center, or Peggy Hill Community Center. The Barrie Air Show will be returning to the skies over Kempfelt Bay on June 10th and 11th. The event will feature fun programming all weekend long, demonstrations, and the iconic Canadian Forces snowbirds. There will also be a viewing of the latest Top Gun down at Meridian Place. So for more information, please visit barrie.ca/airshow. And during that viewing, or just prior to, we'll also have the pilots from the Snowbirds down there able to meet with young people in the community, which I think is a really neat opportunity for the young people in Barrie. The City of Barrie will be recognizing and celebrating National Indigenous Month and National Indigenous Peoples Day during the month of June, supporting and collaborating with community partners to provide opportunities for residents to learn and celebrate the unique, diverse cultures and the contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. For further information and a list of activities, visit barrie.ca/National Indigenous History Month. June is Seniors Month, and 2023 marks the 39th anniversary of celebrating seniors and the tremendous contribution they make to the vitality of the City of Barrie. The city's Parkview and Allendale 55+ centers will be hosting events throughout the month of June, and for further information or a list of activities, please visit barrie.ca/seniors 55+. The city is now conducting its third annual business and employer data survey. City employees will be going door to door and engaging with businesses located in the city's commercial and industrial areas. The data collected will be used to update the city's online business directory and monitor economic trends, support business retention, expansion, and forecast infrastructure needs. It will also assist with transportation planning. For further information, please visit investbarrie.ca/beds, or to complete the survey online, visit buildingbarrie.ca/business data. The deadline for the survey is September the 30th. Applications are now being accepted for the city's License to Ride program, offering Barrie youth aged 12 to 16 free rides on Barrie Transit and access to free recreational opportunities at the city's community centers from July 1st to September 4th. For further information, please visit barrie.ca/license to ride. Nominations are now open for the 5th Annual Mayor's Innovation Awards. The awards celebrate the year's most creative solutions from businesses, individuals, and local community groups. The theme this year is Beyond the New Normal. Nominations are open to Barrie businesses, organizations, and individuals from all sectors, stages, and sizes. The submission deadline is May 28th. For further information, please visit investbarrie.ca/innovation awards. With the recent approval of the city's new official plan, the city is now seeking feedback on the first draft of the citywide urban design guidelines. Residents, businesses, developers, and other stakeholders are invited to review the draft document and share feedback. The deadline to submit comments is on June the 16th. For further information, visit buildingbarrie.ca/urban design. Due to the Victoria Day long weekend, there are by reference or general committee meetings are scheduled for May 24th. Meetings will resume on the 31st with Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee and General Committee. there are no reference or general committee meetings. We are now done the announcements, and we'll move into the bylaws. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon. Leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, third, and finally passed. Bill 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, and 56.
You're just showing off there, Deputy Mayor Thompson. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Nixon. The leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, and 56. Are there any comments or questions with regards to these bills? Seeing none, all those in favor, and it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Nixon. Leave be granted to introduce this bill and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bill 57.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Nixon. The confirmation bylaw. That leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 57. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor, and it carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Ritma, seconded by Councillor Corser. All those in favor? It carries, and we are adjourning at 9.
That was the update from the City Hall. See you later.